Now let's look at some of those approaches that we talked about in the previous video. We're going to first discuss what are called capacity options. Capacity options are ones that as a production manager we can control. We can decide that, okay, we're going to use the inventory approach, and that is we will maintain a constant workforce, and when the demand is less than capacity, instead of decreasing the production, we'll continue to produce at the same rate. So the additional production that we are making will be kept in inventory, which can then be used during the peak period when you don't have sufficient capacity. It's like converting the capacity into inventory and using it when the capacity needed exceeds what we have available. So increase inventory in low demand periods to meet high demand in the future. Well, this increases several costs, of course, inventory related costs. You have to have storage, you have to have insurance, and all the holding costs that we discussed in inventory chapter 12 would now go up. So that is the problem with this approach. Now, shortages may mean lost sales due to long lead time and poor customer service, because what if the inventory that you built up is not sufficient? Okay, so that's another problem. But of course, the benefit is that you're able to maintain a constant workforce, a stable environment for production. Now, another capacity option is to vary the workforce. So when the demand goes down, you fire workers and bring down the production level to meet or to stay with the demand, and when the demand increases, you hire workers back. So you're going to match your production to the expected rate of demand, which is good because your inventory is not going to go up or down. So your inventory is keeping inventory for a long time is bad. So you're going to avoid that, and that's great. But the problem is you're now going to have to fire and hire workers at will, and that may not be feasible many times because the workers may have to be trained to bring them up to speed. So there are costs involved in hiring and firing. If your product is highly technical and the production process is highly technical, then this option may not be feasible at all, because you cannot fire workers and expect them to stick around when you need them to hire them back. That's a problem. Even if it is feasible, the new workers coming in may not produce at the same level of experienced workers, so the productivity may go down. And if you keep doing a lot of firing, hiring back, and so on, the general morale of the workers will be low, and that may lead to loss of productivity also. So there are some benefits and there are some problems as well. Another capacity option is to use overtime when your demand is more than your capacity, or idle the workers, don't let them go, but if the demand is smaller than your capacity, then don't produce. So that way you can avoid inventory. So it allows for constant workforce, and at the same time it doesn't accumulate, you don't accumulate a lot of inventory. But because there is idle time involved, this will increase cost. And overtime also is expensive because you're going to have to pay premium wages during overtime, and too much overtime will overwork workers, and that will result in loss of productivity as well. Another capacity option is subcontracting. So temporarily during the peak period, you have your subcontractor produce the products for you. Of course, it's going to be expensive because you produce in-house, you're going to keep the cost down, but when you subcontracting capacity is usually going to be more expensive than what it would be if you produce in-house. And of course, there are other problems, like you have to have dependable subcontractors who will be able to produce at the same quality level like you do. And also, there is one possibility: the subcontractor learns how to produce for you. They may take that technology to your competition, and they may produce the products for them as well. You are unnecessarily subjecting yourself to competition. So that's a problem with subcontracting. Now you can use part-time workers, and that is another way of dealing with the ups and downs. And these are the hiring and firing and part-time workers, these are feasible only in low skill level areas. Okay, if your product and production process involves high skill level, these are usually not feasible approaches. So these are capacity options, and there are some demand options that you can follow. The demand options are not controlled, or the results of demand options are not predictable like in capacity options. In capacity options, if you hire a couple of additional workers, you hire them and they will produce. So the effect of the result of capacity option decisions are predictable, whereas demand options are not predictable, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to influence the demand instead of the capacity. You're trying to say, all right, I'm going to offer promotion, or I'm going to advertise more during the low period. I'm going to offer additional discounts or promotional sales and so on in an attempt to shift some of the peak period demand into the low period. Now, some customers may respond to these offers and some may not. So it is not calculatable, like, if you offer 10% discount, that will result in 100 additional units of demand. No, you can only estimate. It may come through, it may not come through. So influencing demand option. Now another demand option is to do back ordering. So during high demand periods, you accept orders but don't deliver right away. You promise delivery at a future time period. So that is back ordering. But that requires customers to wait, and therefore there is a danger. Okay. One time a customer may wait, and then the second time the customer may go away to another producer who will satisfy the orders right away. So there is a danger of lost sales in this demand option. And one more thing a lot of companies consider is to have counter seasonal products. So if demand for one product goes down during summer, you complement that product with another product whose demand goes up during summer. So it's kind of counter cyclical, and they average the ups and downs of the different product lines, average themselves out, so the overall production level needed would be same. So for example, heating and cooling. So if you run a heating and cooling operation, so during winter time you install heaters, and during summertime you would install air conditioners or something like that. So, and clothing manufacturers, so winter clothing and summer clothing, and those are different product lines that will even things out. But these are demand options. The demand options are not as predictable or as accurate as capacity options for the purpose of aggregate planning. What I discussed so far are described in the next couple of slides. So changing inventory options, and this one applies only to production and not service operation. Service operation, you cannot build inventory expecting future sales. So varying workforce, again, it requires, we assume that the workers will stick around. When you fire them, you will have enough workforce to hire back when you need them. So varying production rates through overtime, it is flexible, but then there is a problem with the workers' productivity going down and the cost going up. Subcontracting again applies only to production environment and not service environment. So using part-time workers is good for unskilled labor. Skilled labor, typically they are not going to be coming in for part-time work. Now influencing demand, so demand options. So you have discounts and promotions, then back ordering, and then counter seasonal products and services.